good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the fall 2023 product launch webinar, where DataOps.live is thrilled to introduce DataOps.live Assist. My name is Leanne Fouch. I'm part of the marketing team here. I have two of my esteemed colleagues with me. I will hand it over to Thomas. Thanks.
Thanks, Leanne, and welcome everybody. I'm very excited to have you here today and start this session off and take you a little bit through what we have been up to the last couple months and what led us to today, where we want to introduce the DataOps.live Assist. Now, just to give you a little bit of context on where we are and what we do as a company, in case you haven't been there before, really the foundation of everything we do is data operations, going from the core of treating Snowflake infrastructure as a code, giving everybody a safe environment to work with, orchestrating the data pipelines, and then making sure your team can collaborate using the Git workflows. But that's not where we stopped. We really added over the last year everything around data products, specifically data product management, the ability to version and lifecycle every single data products that we have, and start building that up and augmenting that with unified observability experience. So you have good insight, not just in your data products, but everything that evolves around data with our platform. Today, though, we will focus on the far right, and we introduce the assistants which will help and augment your experience throughout our data product management platform, from the development cycle all the way to your data operations pipeline. So let's just go into that and unpack some of the use cases we will launch with and where we're going to see the first impact and the value for you. Taking it one by one, the very first thing we go and bring to you is really core of what you would expect here, providing you better productivity. It starts with suggesting you a model, since this is a very common activity that you as a data engineer have to do. Based on the input that you're providing, that is both the incoming model. So if you're familiar with DBT, that includes, amongst others, either the source files that represents your data ingestion layers, or it might be the intermediate layers that you have already created and where you're creating data. And now, using a natural language prompt, you can start creating all the models. As always, the value here is not just found in the actual SQL file, which is like on the example and the actual code there, but we go the next step as well and make sure that at the same time, we will actually go and create for you also the basic description that you can continue to customize, so that you start with both the model and the model description and make it easier to share everything you do around the organization, starting with your team members. We also generate here basic test expressions so that you can have that started as well, typically for things like the primary keys in the expression, as long as the schema that is underlying those things actually tells us to do so. So that's use case one, that is really anchored around model creation, model suggestion, and model documentation. But as always, it's not just the case that you're starting from scratch, which is what we have on the screen here. There are very much also the use cases where you go and actually need to use something existing, and you need to pick up from one of your colleagues that either is not here today or you can't ask the question, and need to make sense of what you're working on. And one of the common tasks that every data engineer maybe doesn't like so much, but it's still a necessary thing to do, is actually creating your documentation. It doesn't matter if you use SQL or Python, but at the screen you'll see this done for an underlying SQL model with pretty much the main keys there being expressed as columns of a table. And as you would expect in a data ops platform where everything is powered by the Git workflow, we make it first and foremost very easy with the assistant to go and provide you a recommendation of what the documentation should be. But since it's everything backed by Git, you always have the ability to review the trace, change, and update the suggested documentation that you're going to have there. That's why everything is integrated also into Git workflow, and you can choose and review before you commit any changes. There are other use cases when it's more related to the fact that you will want to pick up work from somebody existing, and it could be already a DataOps project, but doesn't have to be. I personally have had some examples where we engaged with customers and they had a couple hundreds of incoming SQL tables and views. And some of those were really, really huge, thousands of lines of SQLs sprinkled with a couple of CTEs doing union ORs and bringing that together. And you look at it and it's like 1,000 lines to read. Oh my. I wish I had what we going to have very soon here, which gives me pretty much a summary of what this is trying to achieve. And with the help of generative AI, we will be able now to go and make your life easier, bring that in, and actually go and create a high-level description that you can actually use to make sense of the underlying SQL, or if you're using Python, the Python model, to give you a head start and help you start engaging either with your peers or starting to make the code changes you have been targeted to go and do. So that is really sort of the 3 core use cases around developing as an individual and working through your data engineering workflows and processes. And that's fine and good. But as always, you would always want to work as a team. And also here, there's an opportunity to get better, particularly if, like you have on the screen, you have multiple commits on a merge request that make up the feature that we have been talking through. It is always important that we make sure we can also have a summary and have a quicker start on everything that we want. And again, here, DataOps Assist would help us. It helps us both ways with creating a summary actually for the merge requests, just in terms of high level, what do all these 5 commits in this case do, but also giving you a more detailed description. And if you haven't been in the role of reviewing merge requests, I personally have, then it's always good just to get the summary before you go through all the 13 change files that you have here and go and look at this, because the number of files might be large, but also the number of changes might be large, even though if you carefully read the description of this merge request, you find it's mostly formatting. And that is helpful information because it will speed up your review process and as you collaborate in the team. Depending on the role you have today, you might be the person that is acting as the data product owner, you might be acting as the release manager, depending how you set up your team, but clearly accelerating also the work, how you work with merge requests, get them approved, get them merged back into the upper environment to development or any other intermediate environments is what matters. And that is also something we will be able to show you today. And I hand over to Tony in just a little bit. But before we do that, also giving you a glimpse where we're going to head with the assistant. I mentioned in the introduction, really part of our overall data products platform. We do also have an observability layer that looks, amongst others, at the pipelines, and already today definitely looks at infrastructure. If you think about the pipelines, one of the most common problems is the question, well, my pipeline failed, why? Right? And we have seen this as a good example, for instance, in our support activities, customers coming through, we get a job log and it looks well, non-conclusive because it's simply long. But if you carefully look as a human, you might finally find the 401 error, which is like a permission denied. And since this was an integration in this particular case, it just meant that the target system had changed the permissions and we could no longer orchestrate the system. But as a support person, it really takes you probably a couple of minutes just to find the right spot, and it also takes quite some experience to look out for what it is. And here comes along again the DataOps assistant that helps you go and identify these root causes much, much quicker, either providing you with a root cause analysis of saying, hey, it was likely the last Git commit, or in the example I've given, it was actually changing permission and just a temporary failure that you have. And that provides you with a recommendation of all the steps to check it and what is the most likely one. So that is there, but one thing you probably ask as well, AI is clearly in everybody's mind these days. How do we treat your data? And to be very clear, as we're introducing this feature to the platform, we will take all measures to protect your Snowflake data. Particular in where we are right now, we're not going to take any of the Snowflake data that we operate on and send that to the AI. To make it meaningful, though, we will take the basic things, for instance, the prompt that you gave us or the log summary that we looked at, but we also will not send that as is, but we will also go and tokenize that and just identify the main keywords. And all of that will actually only be sent to the AI backend, making sure your data is safe and sound and does not leave your environment. So that is for the introduction of DataOps.live Assist. I would like for Tony to take over and show us one example how that actually looks like in real world. Tony, the floor is yours.
Hi, welcome to the generative AI demo for merge requests. In this demo, we're going to look at how we will be using the AI to give us an indication of what our merge request contains. As part of that, we're going to start off by creating a feature branch to do our work in, and we're going to do our merge request against that particular feature branch. So let's go ahead and get started by creating a feature branch. And this branch, we're going to call AI MR demo. And we're going to create it from our main branch. So let's go ahead and create that branch. With our branch created, now we can start making changes to our files. So let's open up our web IDE and we'll do our change right inside our web browser here. So I'll go and find the file I want to make a change to. So navigate to models, samples. I'm going to modify this customer YAML file. So I'm going to simply uncomment a few lines. And I'm also going to add one additional column here to this particular configuration. And with that, now I'm going to go ahead and click on create commit. And this will give me my diff of the old and the new. And I do not want to run an actual pipeline at the moment. So I'm going to skip the CI and I'm going to create a new merge request from the change I just made. So let's go ahead and click on commit. And in our merge request, we are going to provide a couple of bits of information. So the assignee, I'm going to make that be myself for the purposes of this demo. And for the label, I'm going to make sure I select the DataOps AI Assistant. With that selected, I will now go ahead and create my merge request. So our merge request has been completed. It has been submitted. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actions that we took up to this point. So if we look at our activity, what we have is a new AI MR demo branch that we created. Then we made some changes to that branch, and we opened up a merge request against that particular branch. So let's go ahead and see what our AI has done at this point. So we'll see here we have a summary that came back from our AI assistant that shows us that we have updated our samples customer YAML file with a few new columns. And in the description, it tells us what columns were added. So any changes that would have been made, either adds or deletes, the AI would give us that description right in here. So as part of that, we can see our DataOps assistant has done its part. And if I'm satisfied with the changes here, we can write LGTM, and then we can go ahead and create the merge. Now that the merge is done, our MR is finalized, and our changes will have been pushed back into our feature branch. That concludes our demo for AI generation of our merge request.
Now, Assist, of course, is not the only thing we have been up to and have been working on. A lot of effort the last couple of months also went into our DataOps development environment. Today, I'm happy to announce that we actually declaring this becoming part of the public preview and therefore accessible to all customers. This change will happen in about a week and a half from now, on November 13. And for those that have been part of the private preview, you probably already know, but you can do all your Snowflake work for infrastructure as a code. You can do all your data modeling work. You can clearly develop your Snowpark machine learning and data science workloads, and you can build your data applications powered by Streamlit. And also in summer, as a recap, we introduced the data product development. So things like versioning of data products and making sure it's compatible and giving you the right feedback there. All of that is still there, but now we're happy to bring that to everybody, and to make sure we can bring it to everybody, we added 2 more things. One is really for everybody that is new to the full development environment. We introduced the getting started, so that the initial setup around everything, how you connect to Snowflake, and particular also which dbt version you want to use as an example, is right there and gets configured to you. And a couple other more steps that help you go and initialize an environment that is personal to you, but it still has the full power as if it were your own local laptop application. The second thing we introduced, and that makes us graduating into public preview, is really your ability now to work with any kind of Snowflake logins. Most importantly, we are now allowing you to actually use a user that is backed by the Snowflake SSO login. So if you connected your Snowflake, let's say, to Azure directory, now you can also directly use that from the IDE. It prompts you during the getting started wizard, takes you through the normal SSO sign up, like redirects you as an example to your Active Directory, and then brings you back and has the token there, so you can start using the dev environment that you have here. Now also with SSO users, and with that we support both traditional login, username, password, as well as the ability to actually go and do so now with SSO. There are more things that we have been working on. The one other thing we launch in about a week and a half from now is really making sure you can actually work on the platform as a whole as well now with environments. That is one thing that really helps you to make sure your Snowflake account's always clean. The same way when you go and close a merge request, that all your Git side of things are cleaned up. Now your Snowflake side is automatically cleaned up. It's a few we'll find in the DataOps.live application under the environments very soon. And there you start seeing everything populated that corresponds to either your development, production, QA, but also feature branch environments that you would have. And if you have configured others, those as well. And you have the option there to go and configure how you want this to be handled. If you go 100% automatic, then whenever a merge request is merged, the branch is deleted, then it would automatically also execute the Snowflake teardown job and clean up your Snowflake environment. But clearly, you can also go all things manually if you believe you don't want to wait, let's say default actually being a week, then you can click stop and it will take down this specific environment. This will work and is 100% configurable to you based on your policies. We added these capabilities also to the DataOps reference project. So if you adopt the new Snowflake management jobs to set up and tear down Snowflakes for the given environments, we got you covered there. Now, moving on, a couple more things that are coming your way very, very soon. It's just helping working with the DataOps.live platform. The very first things we will also have live in about a week and a half from now is really just better looks. So we worked a little bit on the visuals, make sure that the contrast in the app is better, you can navigate easily and find your buttons. That is always great, but more importantly, we also added some navigation, so you make it easier for you to go from the navigation bar to the observability, specifically the SpendView part of the product, as well as our community and our documentation site, which is behind the Learn and Engage buttons. And last but not least, we also did one step that is closely related to the development environment. Even though the DataOps development environment is now in public preview, not everybody needs for every single task a full environment. But sometimes you just need, as part of code review, like Tony was touching on, or just some basic work where it's simple and not everything needs to be tested. You just need a better file editor, right? And also that we have done. In future, sort of like in a week and a half from now, you can actually go and use the Web IDE, and it will launch an environment that is very, very similar to the DataOps development environment. But the only thing you can do in this one is pretty much editing your files, similar like you can have done with Web IDE before, but a much more comfortable user interface, including syntax highlighting, search capabilities, and everything is powered by VS Code. So it gives you a nice stepping stone between your daily tasks, where you might do 100% development, and the occasional ad hoc users that might just want to change a single file. So really, really happy about that. That's coming out as well. Now moving on to pretty much the next part of it. Of course, there's a lot of things going on as well, always on the platforms around orchestration. And here we're pushing forward specifically on the data.world catalog orchestrator. That gets an update. And as you mature this, you will benefit from a just much, much more comprehensive list of metadata collection that automatically gets published in data.world as your catalog. That also helps then to automatically map anything lineage from the source to the targets and all the intermediate steps automatically, so you have to do less manual stitching than you had to do before. And last but not least, recognition of the source and target system, including interim Snowflake tables of view, is now much more accurate. So if you're a data.world user or planning to use data.world, then you will start enjoying that feature very time soon. Other than that, there have been incremental but also important updates. So as of a couple of days, the Calibre orchestrator is now GA, so is the WorldSpeed orchestrator, and we're pushing forward on the Python version. So now you start having the choice between our default, which is still Python 3.11, which is also very compatible, for instance, with Snowpark. Snowpark only supports 3.8, 3.9, 3.10. But if you're running non-Snowpark workloads and want to use the latest and greatest of Python, we start supporting you with a 3.11 backed orchestrator. It is identical to what you do with 3.8, which is our default. And again, that is available right now under preview. Please touch base with us if you want to do this today or tomorrow. And it will be generally available though with the upcoming next monthly release. So we're talking about a couple of weeks from now. And then you might have seen that in the demo, we just recently switched the default DBT version. As of today, we're pretty much supporting DBT 1.4, 1.5 only, and starting to work on the version 1.7 for DBT core that we're putting into the platform, helping you orchestrate that. 1.0 is end of life as of 2 days ago, and will be completely removed. So customers that are impacted, we have already informed and are working with them to make sure they're getting upgraded. So that's when it comes to orchestrators. But again, orchestrators are not everything we do. So let's just make sure we also touch base a little bit on the SpendView side of the world. Here, your life easily becomes tremendously easier as well. For SpendView, we start introducing user management that allows you to not just use SpendView a user at a time, but rather collaborate, use, and work as a team. You will get nominated for a SpendView owner that is able to go and set up all the Snowflake accounts, one or many, that you own. And then you can start sharing that throughout the rest of the organization. There's no need for the receiving users and stakeholders in your company to also be a DataOps user or a Snowflake user for that matter. They can just start using SpendView with a credential you go and give them. And you can then set the right granularity between just being a user of the platform and enjoying the spend and consumption analytics, or if necessary, give somebody else in addition to yourself the rights to manage, administer, and add potentially also Snowflake accounts. So that is really sort of rounding off pretty much our full release system, being in the lead, the development environment, following suite, and rounding things off with the observability layer. As a recap for the DataOps Assist, we're opening the private preview right now. To please join that, sign up and give us feedback to go through the work cases, make model prediction, merge request reviews, but also pipeline monitoring suggestions, much more practical and contextualized to environment. And please also share any other ideas you think are relevant where AI can help you make your day-to-day life much, much, much easier. For the development environment, enjoy SSO lock-in and really just have everybody start using it if you haven't already used it, and share Snowflake, SPendViews for Snowflake throughout your organization. So with that, we pretty much covered most of what we have today. All right, I'll take the screen back so you have the opportunity to sign up and get everything else. That said, though, handing back to Leanne for any questions we may have got, and happy to answer them live.
Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, just a reminder, if you have questions, please add them in the Q&A chat. We do have a couple of questions that have come through. So for Assist, how many tokens will it accept?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So if you're familiar with pretty much the way the LLMs or generative AI models are working, tokens is pretty much the context that are required to give a meaningful question. And it's a very clear answer. It does depend, right? So depending on, for instance, the size of your SQL, the size of your Python, that of course drives and defines pretty much how things are getting tokenized. And also for our implementation, help us choose the right backend model that makes the recommendations here. So it goes anywhere from very small amount to, in our internal testing right now, worst case is 64K, but those means the responses will be slow. So we right now optimizing for somewhere middle of the pack that gives us the balance between fast response times as well as the accurate predictions. Back to you, Leanne.
Thank you. We have a question coming in from Thomas. I've sometimes seen the get diff misinterpret changes, particularly in the long YAML file. Are you seeing any of that in the Assist summaries, and can Assist do anything to help in this area?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So on the Assist side, we haven't really seen this sort of, let's say, odd behavior or imbalanced behavior yet. It's too early to really show and have very large use cases. That's why one of the reasons we want to open up the private preview, give more real-world examples and feedback so that those recommendations and suggestions can be improved. And we make it much more accurate and predictable for you as well.
Awesome, thank you. How much will Assist cost?
Awesome question. I think everybody's interested in this one. So during private preview, of course, this is free for you. It's more important to go and get this. The long term hasn't been decided yet. It also depends a little bit on how we go and see this. So we expect that as we progress through this one, we will have a more formal answer. and then work with the existing customers individually in terms of what that means for their licensing.
Awesome. A question around the orchestrators. When will the Python 3.11 orchestrator be GA?
Yeah, sure thing. Just to recap on this one, we have it immediately available. We just missed the monthly release this month, so we're expecting that it would make the next monthly release for November. If for odd reasons that doesn't happen, it's definitely a December thing, because ultimately it's ready. It just needs to be put to the stable release so everybody has it and can enjoy it.
And the final question I have, again, if anybody else has additional questions, please add them in the chat. But can I use my own OpenAI API key?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one as well. So where are we with this one right now? So at this point of time, we will effectively not ask you to provide us one, assuming there is some fair use policy of this one. But we might reach out to you in case we see excessive usage of this one, and then work with you to find the right balance.